Changing Hands Bookstore. It's a book signing for TIA Safari's founder, Matthew Dry. Probably.
So I'd like to be the first to welcome all of you to Changing Hands Bookstore. We are Arizona's oldest and largest independent bookstore, and we have been that way since 1974. Thank you very much for being here. And my name's Eddie, and I'm the host for this evening's event. So Changing Hands is just as much a community gathering place as it is a bookstore. So the success of this event and the success of this bookstore is very reliant on you making sure that all dads, get something tomorrow. For example, over at the table, This is Africa, a great book. I'm certain that you know a few dads that would benefit from reading that and probably live by the book. Also, t-shirts, $15. All of those things can be purchased up front. There's plenty of chocolates, other things. Everything dads like is here tonight. So thank you for supporting this event and this bookstore, and thank you for supporting future events here. A young 35-year-old Matt Dry, he sold his house in Scottsdale, Arizona, and gave all his furniture and paraphernalia away to charity and moved to Africa to become a safari guide. After studying at Amakala, there we go, Amakala Game Reserve in the Eastern Cape of South Africa, Matt gained his safari guiding credentials from the Field Guides Association of Southern South Africa in 2007. He worked as a guide for 6 months and then decided that he wanted to see more of Africa. So about 2008, he joined one of Africa's premier overlanding companies, which is Africa Travel Company, ATC. For nearly 4 years, he worked with ATC as a guide in both East and Southern Africa until deciding to create his own company, which is TIA Safaris. Congratulations, sir. And Matt now divides his time between states, talking to clients, or taking clients on trips to trips of their lives into Africa, and basically he's here to talk with you a little bit more about that. So I want you to please welcome Matt Dry to the stage.
I will use this instead. Hello everybody, come in, find a seat, enjoy. He said everything about me, so I don't have much more to say, so I'm just kidding, guys. I want to go over logistics really, really quickly. First and foremost, I want to thank you all for coming, particularly those who came from out of town. There are some of you, it really makes this that much more special for me. One of the things I've always wanted was to have some sort of event where I get to have all the people that I love and cherish all in one place, and I see many, 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 many of those faces here, and I'm very, very, very happy to have you here, tremendously so. Thank you so much. One extra special thank you I want to go out to my family. So no matter what I've done all these years, no matter where I went, my mom, my dad, my brother, were always there for me. So my family, thank you so much for being a part of this. I would not be here without you. Okay, couple disclaimers, guys. One thing I do want to say, 33% of everything that, the books, the t-shirts, all of it goes to African Wildlife Foundation. Their motto is preserving wildlife, conserving land, and empowering people. I do have some rather disturbing, there's basically 2 photos, maybe a third one, that are quite upsetting. I've been practicing not crying myself, so if I do cry, I apologize. I'll get over it and get back on track very quickly, but I will let you know when those photos come along, in case there are any little ones or you don't want to see them. What else about that? If you are afraid of snakes, I was told by one person that she is phobic of snakes. There is one photo, very dramatic photo of a snake in this presentation, so I will also try to remember to let you know when it's coming up, so no one's shrieking or fainting or anything like that. Okay, so what I will start off with, guys, very quickly, one other thing is I hate reading out of books. I am going to read from the book. I'm going to try and make it as entertaining as possible, but I'm going to apologize now. It's the only thing actually I'm nervous about. Is I talk in front of people all the time. Reading from a book is tragic, but I'll try and do my best. So please bear with me. People ask me, how did you become a safari guide? As Eddie said, I went on a trip to Africa and I learned that you could actually be a safari guide. I met this huge South African guy. His name is Barry. It's in the introduction. I was talking to Barry. I was all excited. What have you seen? Have you seen this? Have you done that? He goes, let me tell you a story. He says, I was in the Okavango Delta, which we'll be talking about tonight. That's in Botswana. And he says, we had set up our tents like in a little circle in the middle of the campsite. And he said, I woke up in the middle of the night, there was this terrible roaring and chattering and all sorts of craziness going on. I went to put on my pants, I stood up, I got knocked over. And for Barry to get knocked over, guys, that's impressive, because Barry was like this tall and about 250 pounds. He unzips the tent, he sees there's a big male lion attacking a honey badger. I know a lot of people have seen the video honey badger that's going around. Skip it if you haven't seen it. It gives him a bad rap. Anyway, lion's attacking the honey badger. Honey badger's trying to dig under the tents backwards. So the lion's jumping on the tents, knocking people over. He's screaming, they're screaming, he's chattering, blah, blah, blah. And then the lion ran out of the campsite following the honey badger. And what Barry said to me, of course, I was enthralled by this, and he points at me and he goes, I can see that this job would be perfect for you, and you would be perfect for this job, because I was loving it. And he says to me, and I'll never forget this because just that one sentence from this one stranger changed my life forever. He said, you follow your heart. And that's exactly what I did. Came back, as you heard, sold all the stuff, blah, 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 went to Africa, and I could not be a happier person. All right? So the adventure begins now. One other thing, guys, this was originally a 2-hour presentation, which I now have, I will try and shorten into a 1-hour presentation. So when I get done, I will, in an hour, I'll wrap everything up, and then I will be up here signing books. First, I will answer any questions you might have, as many as I can, for about 10 minutes, and then then I'll be signing books up here. And I just want to apologize. I would love to sit and talk with you. I could. When you come on my trip to Africa, then we can talk all you want. But I'm sorry if I can't spend more than just 45 seconds or a minute chatting with you. I do want to, all right? Okay, so really quickly, where I started my journey was in a school called Amakala, right here in Port Elizabeth, in South Africa. Okay, here's Port Elizabeth down here. This is Amakala Game Reserve. Amakala Game Reserve is 30 square miles. It is a private reserve. In South Africa, the people who are most likely going to save wild animals in Africa are going to be these private reserves. They have their own problems, they have their own difficulties, but these private reserves that are popping up all over the place, especially in the Eastern Cape, are the places where many of the animals will survive. When I got factoried out to a lodge, I was factoried out to Luenbosch. Ulavani, which you'll see in a moment, was right over about here in the reserve. All right, here is a picture of the study lodge part of Ulavani. Ulavani just had a bunch of tents. I lived in a tent for the better part of a year. And then this is where we would have our classes and whatnot. And actually, the lodge itself was the reserve itself was the classroom. Here's a picture of 5 o'clock in the morning. Our day started very, very early. 5 o'clock in the morning, we get up. This is what beauty we would get to see off the back of that lodge that you just saw. Here is another photo from the same sort of, from that same lodge. Amakala is very, very special. It has what they call 4 different biomes. Biomes are areas defined by climate, defined by wildlife and plant life, geology as well. But Amakala began as farmland. Amakala was started by farmers. This is George. George is one of the 2 personas that I dedicated the book to. Okay, Best moment of my life, which I cannot talk about here. That story, I wanted to read it to you, but I always end up crying, so I won't tell you too much about George. Here's a picture of George's butt when I unzip my tent and look out. So this was right in the middle of the reserve. All the animals that you think about in Africa were right out there. Bless you. Okay, so on the reserve, we would drive around in these vehicles. This is a Land Rover. This is a roofless one. We are being charged here by a leopard tortoise, incredibly dangerous animal. So called because they eat leopards. No, that's not true. It's just the largest tortoise in Africa. As you can see, as I said, Amakala began as farmland. And a lot of these reserves do exactly that. They take farmland, they introduce animals. Most of them, hopefully if they're responsible, they understand what animals are in that area, had lived there before, and then they bring them. So here you can see, you got giraffe back there, and that windmill is actually used to drudge up water for the animals, a water hole. You could probably identify that character. If and when you read the story George, you will understand why that seat was the seat of the best moment of my life. Is a Big Five reserve. You come to Africa, they're going to say, oh, you come to see the Big Five. That is elephant, lion, leopard, black rhino, although some people will settle for white rhino, and leopard. Is that five? So here you have white rhino over here. You have buffalo. Up there is one of our lodges, one of the most beautiful spots on the planet. But let me show you a couple of what I mean by the Big Five. It is a hunting term that was used. You were not considered a hunter until you came to Africa and hunted the Big Five. Right now, it is a flagship. It is a term to describe those five animals that people come to Africa to see. The flagship species. So here are Cape buffalo, water buffalo. A lot of people like to call them water buffalo. They're very offended by that. These are Cape buffalo. Water buffalo are their Asian cousins. All right, so here we have white rhino. These guys are grazers. They're actually should be called square-lipped rhino. That's actually their common name. They have big, fat, wide lips used for eating grass. So these big, huge monsters, up to 3.5 tons, they are grass eaters. This is a black rhino. This photo was taken, and they're not good, guys. I apologize. Some of these are terrible, but this was as close as I was going to be able to get to him. Amakala, the week that I left, 2 weeks before I left, they got a black rhino, which is very, very special. Only 2,700 of them left in the world. And this one was introduced to the reserve that day, same day that this next story that I'm going to try and read took place. Wonderful thing. This is a very stuffed cheetah. Now on Amakala, they wanted to get leopards. There were leopards that passed through there. It's very hard to keep leopards on a reserve, but cheetah kind of were the Big Five exchange. This was our dominant. This was our male pride male lion. One of the best photos ever taken in the history of African travels was taken by a teacher, Skunk. Another guy got the same photo, but one little kid in a kindergarten class I went to asked, "Is that the lion's Christmas card?" This baby, guys, this baby was this baby was born right after, well, we won't get into it, but this baby was born at a very, very special time. If you read the book, you'll understand when this baby was born. But this is another photo of the cutie. Here is the herd. This photo is in the book. This herd was brought to Amakala as an entire herd. It was a rather extraordinary event. You could actually see it on YouTube. They did a whole program on it. Let's see how we're doing. Okay, so this is George once again. This was on my birthday. He had come to visit us at the school. Unbelievably amazing experience. I was probably no more than 5 yards away from him. There was a 9,000-volt electric fence between us, but it was still very, very comfortable between us after that best moment of my life. This photo is all throughout the book. This one, you'll see that it's the same one. This fellow right here is Riche. Riche was the head ranger when I was there. This experience is what he taught me to make sure I knew how to deal with elephants on Amakala. You don't always want to deal with elephants this way. You have to understand your animals wherever you are. But this is what happened. The little baby you see there decided that he was interested in us. And then his mother on the right there, her name is Tuskless. Can anyone guess why? Tuskless. Okay, so here he is. He's getting a little ornery. And he's interested. Mom doesn't really care about us because she knows us and we've been around her for years. So he came running up to the vehicle, and all of a sudden, the mom got upset. So Macaulay, who is that big one there, he's the third largest elephant on the reserve, came up. They formed a defensive position right in front of us, and she came up right up to defend the baby. She came right up, was about to put her trunk on the hood, and Riche raised his hand like this, as you may have saw in the last photo, and all he did was this. And the elephants went, I was like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen. I can't wait to do that, you know? Okay, so this is our dominant bull, Norman, about whom I'm going to read. This photo here, this is a different day, but same idea. Him coming by, you can see he's weeping from his temporal lobe. That means he's in must, a heightened state of testosterone. He's ready to go out and meet some ladies. So here again is Norman passing by, and now I'm going to read Peanuts for Elephants. Okay. Peanuts. I say as I lay the snack goodies on the tablecloth next to our roofless Land Rover. It is customary to treat the guests to sundowners halfway through the afternoon game drive. Sundowners consist of wine, beer, sodas, assorted snacks like biltong, which is beef or antelope jerky, dried fruit, potato chips, and dried boerewors, beef sausage. So this afternoon we have stopped for our peanut-accompanied sundowners, where we can watch the elephant herd graze lazily on the western hills a good 800 yards away. This is the first time in my 6 months of guiding at my lodge that we've had peanuts. I love peanuts. So does somebody else, seemingly. Elephant, yells Vern, my 21-year-old sidekick, a trainee at Lewinbosch. I turn around from fishing another beer out of the cooler box for Arnold, one of our 4 50-something guests from England. My eyes widen and I smile. It is Norman, our dominant bull elephant and one of the stars of the reserve. He is directly east, about 400 yards out, and heading toward us through a thicket. Strangely, his massive ears are splayed and his trunk pointed straight out in front of him. It is as if an invisible rope was attached to the trunk's end and we were pulling on it. It is something I have never seen him do previously. It is something I've never seen any elephant do. The couple's look and an audible gasp escapes their lips. Even from here, Norman is impressive. Everybody on the vehicle, I advise hastily. You may take your drinks with you. I'm sure he's heading for the herd on the hill. It occurs to me to be safe, just in case the old wives' tale that elephants love peanuts is true. Obviously, peanuts are not something elephants find in the wild. Therefore, the possibility Norman is coming for them seems ludicrous. However, it is better to be safe than have your peanuts stolen by a bull elephant. So he keeps coming. I try and put all our materials back on the truck, put it away as quickly as I can in case he's going to come right up. So then I'm talking to the passengers. Sometimes Norman likes to buzz the vehicle when he's in must or heat, as you might say, just to make a display of his dominance, I tell them. If he comes over to us, please just stay very still and very quiet. No photos, please. It'll be just fine. Beyond their shoulders, Norman, his trunk still pointed directly at us, with his ears open, pushes himself through the thicket that lines the small clearing where we're parked, 70 yards away. Nancy, Arnold's wife, a woman who professed upon arrival at the lodge, I do not want to do this safari thing. I'm terrified. Looks just that, terrified. She is just this side of reason and sanity, and I realize I need to appeal to that last vestige of reasonability. I tell her, put your head down, stay in the middle of the vehicle, it's all going to be fine. At 30 feet, I raise my left hand as far above my head as possible, like Riche. Make myself bigger and give Norman a signal of greeting. I start my usual monologue reserved for the elephants when they come this close to the vehicle. My voice is calm, soothing, and as it needs to be, absolutely assured. Hi, buddy. Nice to see you. You're looking good today, as usual. Norman stops at 12 feet and looks at me with his long, lashed left eye. He drops his trunk to the ground, then he turns his head slightly to listen. Just here having some snacks, my man, I babble. The two tips of his trunk explore the ground next to the landy. I can't help but think, sorry, home slice, no peanuts for you. And then I continue babbling. On your way to visit the family? I'm sure they'll be happy to see you. We're always happy to see you. Norman doesn't answer, but continues to listen and search. Towering over the vehicle, Norman is enormous. 12 feet at the shoulder and somewhere around 7 tons, Norman at 35 years is bigger than most elephants at 50 or 60. We hang here like this for 10 seconds, the tip of his trunk searching, searching, searching. It's a seeming eternity. He turns his massive head towards us and takes a tentative step. The tips of his tusks are now 6 feet from my face. He begins to slowly lift his trunk. Game over. So, on the reserve, you also have lots of really, really cool stuff. You probably look at this and think this is an alien. This is an addo-flightless dung beetle. It is an endemic creature you only find there in this area, probably within a 35-mile radius. It is a large dung-eating beetle. Really fun to play with. This little guy is a flower mantid. It is a mantis, and it looks just like bird poop. It is one of the coolest things I've ever found, ever. There it is, not as a bird poop. Of course, warthogs, one of the things that you find all over Africa. Wonderful things to see. For those of you who don't know warthogs, Pumbaa, you know Pumbaa? Okay? This incredibly beautiful creature is called a kudu. A kudu. It is one of the many antelope species that you find. Africa has 76 different species of antelope. No deer, just antelope. The #1 hunted animal in Africa. They breed them everywhere for hunting. Is a white-tailed gnu, or gnu, if you prefer. This animal is a perfect example of why we have private reserves. Private reserves are created so that animals like this can survive. There were 300 of these animals left in the world at one point. Because people bred them on private reserves, there are now over 10,000. They only live in South Africa. Beautiful, beautiful animals. This is the relative of the animal that you find in the Serengeti. These beautiful creatures are waterbuck. 2 males, females do not have horns. Another amazing, amazing creature to see. You can probably guess what those are. Those are giraffe, in case you were wondering. Giraffe. Big mounds there are called southern harvester termite mounds. They'll come up in a few seconds. Of course, we saw this guy. This is the largest tortoise in Africa, leopard tortoise. Believe it or not, the one on the left is the male. He's got his work cut out for him. Nice. This lovely lady was one of my clients. I am being very safari guide-ish there, as you can see. One of the beautiful things about Amakala had 22 miles of river running through it. Absolutely essential. Anytime you go anywhere, one of the most important things, of course, is having water for animals to drink. You have a river like that running through your reserve, you are set. So I'm explaining blah, blah, blah. This is Amakala, all the stuff I've already told you. And this is Big Hook. So this area that we're looking at here is Big Hook. And this photo was also taken by her. One of the incredible moments that you hopefully will get to capture on your camera when you do come to Africa. This is an eland, a female. There's another female over there. Female eland, males are even bigger. They tend to be up to a ton. This is Chippy. We'll be talking about Chippy in a sec, sadly. But he's obviously rating the jump on the eland. Okay, so my next is called the Dream Dragon. The Dream Dragon. In case you're thinking, wow, that thing kind of looks like a Komodo dragon. That's because a Komodo dragon is called Varanus komododensis. This guy is Varanus niloticus, the Nile monitor. The oryx stand in the red grass of Big Hook. You'll see them later. That's another type of antelope. 100 yards in front of the Land Rover. They eye us nervously as we putter up toward up the road toward them. We have just taken an untold number of photos of eland, Chippy, our second largest white rhino on the reserve, and a herd of Burchell zebra, and their constant companions, a small herd of black wildebeests. I am so intent on the oryx that I actually jump in my seat when Soraya, traveling with her husband Jack, shrieks, "There's a huge lizard back there in the grass." Well, excuse me, well, I feel it then. The dream emotion. It is that tingling sensation one gets when one realizes something great and momentous is about to occur, like the fulfilling of a dream. It could only be one thing out here in the middle of Big Hook. It has to be a monitor lizard. I jam on the brakes. Ever since I could say Komodo dragon, I have had the dream of catching one of these lizards. I look in the side mirror and see the lizard's 4-foot body just off the road in the red grass. It is a medium-sized one, as they can be well over 6 feet long. Its bluish and yellow scales shine like a lighthouse beacon, guiding me back to the dream of yesteryear. I grind the Land Rover into reverse and gun it backwards. I am a good 5 yards from the lizard when I brake hard. I leap out of the landing and hit the ground running. In his tiny reptilian brain, it takes the lizard a second to realize his sitting motionless in the grass isn't going to work as his first line of defense. He wisely bolts for it, pushing through the knee-high grass straight for the eland, zebra, and black wildebeest. I race after him, the smile on my face getting bigger by the step. It then occurs to me that my efforts have just begun. I know he isn't going to stop until he finds himself a hole in which to hide. This means I'll have to grab him out here in the open. Grabbing him promises the possibility of serious biting, definite scratching, and a tail lashing that is the equivalent of a small whip. Monitors have serious teeth and tend to hold on like bull terriers. If they have been feeding on carrion, there is the possibility of septicemia. Their claws are capable of ripping through a cement-like termite mound, wherein they lay their eggs and allow the mound to incubate them. One of the coolest things in nature, I have to say. As for the tail, one of our field guys actually had his pants ripped by the lashing of a monitor's tail. All this means that if I'm going to grab him, I have to grab him behind the head on my first attempt. The question arises then, how do you grab a writhing miniature dragon exactly in the right place while running through a field at top speed? Read the book. What you see here, guys, is one of the water holes on Macaulay. And on the left here, this lovely fellow is a dominant bull rhino in Cozy. He's big. He's, as I said, three and a half tons, 6'6" at the shoulder. It is an enormous, enormous animal. Over here, you have 2 females and 2 of their offspring. Okay. Over here on the right, in Cozy, is amorously trying to invest some time with the lady, but she doesn't want anything to do with him. She still has her baby with her. He won't be able to, telephone, he won't be able to get with her until that one is weaned in another year or so. So he's kind of ornery. Here he is stating his case. As you can tell by the ears laying back, she's not taking, she's not pleased. So, and the baby's right there supporting her. This, guys, is what we do. When we go out walking, one of the things I learned to do as a safari guide is we had to learn how to shoot a rifle. I do want to make this clear. You have the rifle not for hunting purposes, but just in case something happens where an animal surprises you, which is what the next story is about. This is what you have to do when you are walking. You have to walk in a straight line, and you have to listen to your guide. So if there's one thing I'm going to teach you tonight, guys, always listen to your guide. If your guide tells you to hit the ground, you hit the ground. If your guide tells you to run, you run. If your guide runs, you run too. Yeah, whatever your guide does. So this is in Cozy. This is called In Cozy, My Jewish Mother's Worst Nightmare. It has occurred to me several times throughout my guiding career that every safari guide, as an integral part of his or her training, should have to live with a Jewish mother for at least a month. For those not familiar with the ways of a Jewish mother, they are the best worriers and potential problem solvers in the world.
They are the masters of the if-then hypothetical, understanding cause and effect on another plane. For example, if you don't put on a sweater because I'm cold, then you will catch a cold. Or, as you all know, if you don't put on clean underwear in the morning and you have a fatal accident, then everyone will think you're an unclean person when they strip your corpse. These are analogously indispensable when considering the possibilities of walking people through a dangerous game area. Of course, no Jewish mother would have ever allowed her child to become a walking safari guide in the first place. Maybe a lawyer or a doctor for a walking safari guide, but definitely not a safari guide. Matt, come in for Ben, comes through my handheld radio. Matt, standing by, Ben, I answer. I've just asked to find out where Norman, who you met, our dominant bull elephant is, for good measure. I had seen him about 3.5 hours previously, a mile and a half away, browsing lazily across the river, but not since. We are walking in the middle of Plot, an open area covered by flowing red grass, southern harvester termite mounds, unseen aardvark holes surrounded by thicket. Ahead of us, at about 200 yards, is the only tree, a giant pom-pom looking thing called a thorny karee. With the .375 rifle weighing heavily in my left hand, I am leading my fellow Ulavani students, Alex, Sally, John Drew, and my mentor, Colin, all in a straight, compact line. I know where all the dangerous game on the whole reserve are, excluding Norman and our dominant white rhino, Nkosi, whose name means king. My call to find out where Nkosi is several minutes earlier also proved to be fruitless. We had seen Nkosi 3 hours previously at the beginning of our walk. He had been with one of the females and her calf by Ulavani Pan, which we saw. About 700 yards right of our present location down a steep thicket encrusted a hill. He had been decidedly unhappy as the female had rejected his amorous advances due to the presence of her most recent offspring. Channel 4, Matt, Ben scratches through the handheld again. I look down to turn the knob to channel 4, but never get to do it. Alex's voice barks behind me. Matt! His tone alone rivets me in my tracks. I look up. 100 yards in front and to our left, Nkosi strides out from behind the thorny karee. Adrenaline rockets into my system, and my hand crushes the rifle in a vice-like grip. I don't need to tell anyone to stop, but I do. We are all frozen to our spots, roots of terror growing into the ground from our feet. The reality of our situation hits me like, well, a charging rhino. My assumption that Nkosi was with the female and calf was wrong, very wrong. Jewish Mother 101, for once, has failed me. So guys, this is Chippy. Chippy, try not to cry. Chippy became our dominant bull rhino. We call him Chippy, he had lost his horn. We had put a microchip in his horn, as we did with Nkosi. Chippy, in 2010, was poached. He was killed. Rhino killing has escalated enormously, particularly in South Africa. This little one on the left is Giza. This is another photo of Giza. So one of the things that the money from these books and these T-shirts are going to is to protect rhino. At the rate rhinos are being killed, there will be no rhinos left in about 10 years. None. You see here this number here. It has gone up. Some people attribute this to the change in government in South Africa. It has also become incredibly complex, the way in which they hunt and kill rhinos now. That number 174, you're thinking, oh, okay, it's not so bad. 174 was 2 months ago. 2 months ago. So most likely right now, if it's at the same rate, it's probably even more than what's going on. So one of the things that African Wildlife Foundation does do is it supports crime fighting. So sending money to the government to set up different bureaus to make sure that rhino poaching comes to an end. To get the people, for the most part, people believe that rhino horns, which is nothing more than a fingernail, have medicinal value. Particularly in Vietnam and China, they believe that rhino horn has all sorts of properties. Rhino horn goes for about $30,000 a kilogram, so 2.2 pounds of it, and you can see why. And we could all get together and send our fingernails together, and we would be making tons and tons of money.
This is Giza. He lived for 4 days. They didn't actually kill him. What they do now is they bring in helicopters. Quite often vets are involved, and they dart the animals so they don't make any noise, and then they cut the horns off. Giza did not die. Ultimately, he died from infection. Will was the vet who, he is the son of the owner of Luenbosch Lodge. He is the one of the local vets that has to go out and anesthetize, put the animals down when they don't kill them. So the next photo, guys, is also very tough. It's Chippy. So this gross swelling is obviously, he wasn't found until about 6 days after he was killed, but he too had his horn chopped off. Okay. So African Wildlife Foundation, guys, once again, what they do is they also have breeding programs. One of the places I'll be visiting with clients in August is a place called Hwange National Park in Zimbabwe. They're working very, very hard to make sure that these breeding programs take place. This is a black rhino, so also called the hook-lipped rhino. You can see the lip here. As I said, white rhinos, there are about 17,000 of them left in the world. There are less than 3,000 of these left. This is one of the big 5. So breeding programs in places like Hwange, in Ngorongoro Crater, all supported by African Wildlife Foundation. Okay. So guys, after I left Amakala, we made it through that. Okay, I joined Africa Travel Company. The trips that I was doing were actually 56-day trips from Nairobi out to the gorillas. You'll see that in a sec. To Cape Town. So the mid part of the trip would be at Vic Falls. This is also one of the overlanding trips that I'm still doing, 3 weeks from Cape Town up to Vic Falls. So the next place I'm going to talk about, if we're going up from Cape Town, is Namibia. Who's heard of Namibia? Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, right? Yeah. Amazingly enough, if anybody tells you one person can't do anything, tourism in Namibia went up 30% when they had their baby there. I don't know if it's going to work the same for us if we have our babies there, but it worked for Namibia. Amazing, amazing statistic. 3 times the size of Arizona, 1/3 the population of Greater Phoenix. 1.8 million people live in this country. It is a magical place. Obviously, I feel at home there since it has 4 different forms of desert, but absolutely remarkable, remarkable country. So many magical things. This is the type of truck that we use when we're traveling overland through Namibia. That is a very good picture of what Namibia looks like when you cross the border from South Africa to Namibia. One of my favorite photos, one of my passengers sent to me, this is Fish River Canyon, 2nd largest canyon in the world. It is, I have to admit, is a crack compared to the Grand Canyon, but it is one of the places that we stop, and I wouldn't not stop there. It's the view, it is absolutely extraordinary. Beautiful, beautiful place. Some of the people that you meet along the way, these ladies are dressed, obviously not in their traditional garb, but as in civilians, they're Clark Kent outfits. These guys would be what you might know from the Kong tribe. The Kong tribe. Try that at home. You might have heard yourself. So these ladies are just an example. Tell by the lighter, dark skin that they are the sand people. Whoever saw, you might have seen the movie Gods Must Be Crazy. Okay, same people. Wonderful people you meet along the way. This is a weird little town called Bethany. We stopped there basically for a toilet break, but it's fascinating to meet the people along the way. Just your average run-of-the-mill place to pick up some drinks. You guys are looking to go to the true middle of nowhere. Bethany is it. Fantastic photo. It looks like this, and no matter what direction you're looking in. I am there with that incredibly handsome guy, also known as Dad. Tropical Capricorn, around 23 degrees around the world. You will find most deserts are on that latitude. Unbelievable, this is one of the things that you find in Namibia, guys. Unbelievably crazy, weird, wonderful thing.
This nest has about 600 birds in it, called sociable weavers. Nest weighs a ton. A ton. Absolutely incredible to see. You'll see them everywhere. Well, certainly the most visited place in Namibia. This is called Sossusvlei, largest sand dunes in the world. They do not move. Absolutely remarkable place. If you ever seen the movie The Cell, anybody see the movie The Cell? Jennifer Lopez? Nobody. It's really interesting. It has these 900-year-old trees that are so desiccated that they don't rot. And they will probably be there for another 900 years. Really one of the most fascinating, beautiful places. I can talk for endless hours about that place. Swakopmund is my favorite town in the world. It's this weird, perfectly German little town in the middle of Namibia. So you're driving through the desert and you come to this beautiful seaside town. Lots of people go to Namibia. Do not miss Swakopmund. Lots of really cool things to do there. This is the middle of the street of Swakopmund. Namibia is one of the youngest countries in the world. It was made a country in '92. It used to be called, way back in the day before Germany lost its right to own anything, Treaty of Versailles, it was owned by the Germans and taken away by the South Africans. It is such a weird thing. Back in the distance there, you see Swakopmund, and then all sorts of, obviously, there's lots of weird, wonderful activities you can do. But these dunes, there are basically 4 different types of dunes. These are called Bactrin dunes. These ones shift and change as you go along. There's another vision. Lots of places around Namibia, you will find they have sand art. So art that has been done over 4,000, 5,000 years ago. One of these places, and there's lots of places to stop and see. This is a place where we go, called Spitzkoppe, the Matterhorn of Africa. It's not that impressive, guys, but it is absolutely beautiful place. Granite and nice rocks. Obviously, we camp out there. Beautiful, beautiful morning view of Spitzkoppe. Here is an example of the art that the sand people done. This is actually a rhino. One of the things that's so strange to see a rhino out here in the Namibian desert is that it means that there were once rhino in that area. So not only have they obviously all been killed off, but the climate has changed enough because there was no way a rhino would be able to survive. And at one point, they lived in that area. I can't tell you what that is, but that is more sand art. So one of the things that we do get to do in Namibia is we get to pet cheetah. One of the conservation programs that is very, very important, and one of the places that we support is this 3 domestic cheetah. Domestic. Let me rephrase that. They raise these cheetah from being orphans inside their house. So people can come interact with the cheetah. They're still wild animals, but they are, in a sense, tame, at least used to humans. One of the funny animals that they saved in a fence. This one got a little bit bigger. There we go. Guys, you come to Africa, these are the things you see. This particular farm, anytime there were cheetah in any area, farmers would call them and say, I have a cheetah. I'm going to shoot it unless you come and get it. Cheetah, we think of cheetah guys as these majestic creatures. In Namibia, they're a pest, and you're allowed to shoot them if they're killing your cattle or your sheep or whatever. Very sadly, in Namibia, a live cheetah is not allowed to be taken anywhere, but you can take a dead cheetah anywhere. So a place like this that we support is a wonderful place where you do get to interact with them. This is Etosha National Park. Unfortunately, guys, I'm going to have to speed it up a little bit. Etosha National Park is another wonderful place that that you get to visit that you will visit if you go to Namibia. This is Etosha Pan. It's an area that is 66 miles by 40 miles. It looks like the moon. Absolutely magical, magical place. This is a black-faced impala, another part of the conservation effort that African Wildlife Foundation supports in the conserving of wildlife. This particular animal is only found in this park and in southern Angola, but its numbers are declining because of hunting there. Here's a couple males sparring. This is a blue wildebeest, it's a different subspecies of the ones that you find in the Serengeti. These are springbok. In case anybody's heard of the Springboks and think of the rugby team, this is actually the animal that
is the springbok. One of the beautiful things, the animal we'll be talking about in a sec, is this creature right here. That's the oryx that I referred to earlier. One of the wonderful things that you do get to see when you go to places that are protected, these herds of elephants watch the baby. Baby goes and gets a little drink of water. Little baby falls in the water. Watch what happens. Oh, that's so sweet. Little baby started whining. Family members got together, pulled it out by its tuchus. I will tell you it doesn't exist in Africa, but it does. Amazing photo. It was stalking an oryx, which was a big feat for it. So these are oryx, guys. This is a desert animal. And this might be tough to look at. There's a little blood. You're all right. This is called Something Killed. Really one of the most spectacular things I've seen on the roads in Africa. When he introduces himself, Greg exclaims with a glint in his eye and a wide grin on his face, "I want to see something killed." There is a titter of laughter and more nods of agreement. There are more nods of agreement than not. It is a very common reply when I ask passengers what they most want to see on their adventure through Africa. It is not hard to understand the desire to witness a kill. It is one of nature's most dramatic visual spectacles. A frown tugs at the corner of my lips. I know the truth about witnessing a kill. For most, it is a wish they ultimately wish they had not made. Not wanting to scare my passengers on the first day of their trip, I don't tell them the kill one sees on National Geographic Channel is usually accompanied by a dramatic soundtrack covering the worst parts of the kill, the screaming of the prey animal mixed with the savage growling of the predators, the tearing of flesh, and the crunching of bone. Most animals sound like a screaming child as they are being brought down and consumed. There is much that is awesome about a kill, but very little of it can be construed as pleasurable. Be careful what you wish for here in Africa, Greg, I say as lightheartedly as possible. It is morning in the Namibian desert. The sun has just risen, bathing the stark vastness of the Namib Naukluft in a golden orange brilliance. Staring out the windows at the glow of the morning desert, the passengers are still waking up. Perhaps they are looking more forward to being back in the arms of civilization in the seaside town of Swakopmund than seeing the sunrise glow of the desert. The wilds of Africa have not yet been wild enough for them in savagery's terms, but certainly so in the lack of civilization's amenities. Nick slows the truck to a standstill, and I leap to my feet. He knows to stop if there is ever an animal on the road, especially reptiles. By the cloud of dust in the middle of the road in front of us, it is evident there is a much greater drama unfolding than a reptile making the hell-bent dash for survival. So these animals could have been fighting all night. And it was, needless to say, a little trying on some of the passengers. I'll just read this last part. During this battle, one of the oryx has snapped his horn in half, possibly in the inch-thick skin of his foe's neck. It's hard to tell as blood lies like an angry Jackson Pollock painting over the foe's beautiful white, black, and gray coat from a dozen different slashes and stab wounds. This is not quite as stomach-churning as the fact that its horn has, at some point, penetrated the half-unicorned oryx's lung. With every powerful breath it expels, blood froths from its lips. It is most assuredly going to be the one defeated and killed. It is impossible to look away. The next story takes place in Botswana, guys, a place called the Okavango Delta. The Okavango River runs down from the Angolan mountains and forms basically these five different rivers. It's what it's known for. You guys may have seen these photos. Is you go into the delta in mokoros, which are dugout canoes made from trees you find in the delta. The locals make them. They pull you in. Hello. You go in. Many of they can go anywhere, these things, just like any other canoe can. A lot of the passages are made by 70% of the land that you will go by foot is made by this particular termite. It doesn't have a common name, so its Latin name is not going to mean a whole lot to you. But this 70% of the land is created by these termite mounds. Absolutely fascinating to see. So here are hippos right outside the campsite. These are people walking through the delta. Really one of the greatest of all pleasures. Certainly my favorite thing to do in Africa is to be on foot with the animals. So you have wildebeest and zebra, giraffe. One of my favorite photos, one of my passengers was able to take. This was me being very angry at our guide. I felt we were far too close to this elephant, but fortunately he knew what he was doing, so I was trusting him. In the Delta, I do not do the guiding, I do a lot of the information giving, but the guys that live there know the place by the back of their hands are the ones that... This is an elephant. Anywhere you go, elephants will have culture. It doesn't matter if you go to the zoo, if you go to Africa, if you go to India, elephants learn and teach each other things just like we do. These elephants have learned to shake these coconuts out of the trees. They're only about that big. But here's a perfect picture of one doing that. It is hilarious, it's hilarious to see. You just can't believe it. It's nice, once again, you get to see the big five. These are terrible photos, but I was so pleased that I got to see this and experience this. These were buffalo forming a defensive position. What were they forming a defensive position against? Oops. So that's 3 male lions. So we're standing about 300 meters away from these guys on foot. If you want an adrenaline rush, if anybody's an adrenaline junkie, this is your thing. Really, really impressive. Sunset cruise. You get to hang out with some hippos. You get to hang out with some more French kissing hippos. At night, you hear the tinkling of bells when you're there. This is the animal that makes the bells. It's an incredible, beautiful sound. One of the wonderful things that we do when we're in our campsite, and last night is the locals sing and dance for us, and then sadly we sing and dance for them. In the campsite, this is the kind of creature. Obviously, hippos, they're nocturnal. They come out to feed on grass. You better not be out when they're out. Elephants come right near and through the campsite. This guy was taking a peek at us, see if anybody was naked. He was right there. This is a rock monitor, a different type of, another type of monitor, Varanus, will be in my next book. That's a hilarious story. Okay, this, guys, is called Scrabble This. Dr. Samia Jamal is a lovely anesthesiologist just about to turn 30 from Winchester, England. This trip to Africa is her first in many ways. It is the first time on a camping trip. It is the first time traveling on an overland truck. And it is the first time she is traveling with her 4 20-something English friends, Kay, Liz, Sunny, and Carla. Of the 5 of them, only 2 have ever put up a tent. It is certainly her first adventure into the Okavango Delta, or any wilds of any place where there is a host of animals and situations that would most assuredly kill her if given the circumstance. Circumstance, for example, like playing Scrabble in the shade of a rain tree during our rest time between hikes. We all sit hunched over the Scrabble board on our 1-foot-tall stools. Samia lazes on her sleeping mat on the ground between Steve, the 26-year-old American to my right, and Kay, who sits directly across from me, intensely involved in our ruthless game. Sunny, to my left, is in cahoots with Kay, as Kay is in cahoots with both Samia and Steve. Their mission is to defeat me as humiliatingly as possible, as I have been somewhat shamelessly winning our games every day on the truck during the long hours between destinations. Oh boy. And so, okay. So we're sitting there, guys, and I'm looking down at my letters, waiting for Kay to go, taking a glacial period of time. And what appears right below my letters, right at my feet, one of these guys, which is called Mfezi. The snake sways steadily there as I consider grabbing it by the back of the head. Really bad idea. If I don't grab it perfectly, I will be bitten. Mfezi have both cytotoxic and neurotoxic venom. And if the neurotoxic venom doesn't shut down the nervous system, the cytotoxic venom will cause massive necrosis of the flesh that can lead to deadly secondary infection. Being bitten this far from civilization and antivenom is pretty much certain death. If I do grab it perfectly, it still may be able to cover the onlookers with venom. Eyes open with terror are perfect receptacles for sprayed cobra venom. So another trip, guys, that I would do as a part, we would start in Nairobi. We'd go out to see the gorillas.
and come down. And the Masai Mara is the northernmost part of the Serengeti ecosystem. That's right here. Go out to see the mountain gorillas. Also one of the projects that African Wildlife Foundation supports and works very hard to keep alive. Out to the gorillas, we come back to Nairobi, and then down to Ngorongoro Crater and the Serengeti, and then on to Zanzibar. This is Serengeti National Park. Great Rift Valley, it runs from Jordan all the way down to northern Botswana. It is one of the main reasons that is a rifting in the earth occurred 20 million years ago, which helped form all these lakes and these volcanoes like Kilimanjaro, and this place, Lake Manyara, Ngorongoro Crater, and the Serengeti. Kilimanjaro, an example of a freestanding mountain. This is Mount Meru. These are all places, all volcanoes that were formed because of that rifting, allowing magma to bubble up from the bottom of the Earth's crust, the mantle. This is the gate that you will go through when you're going into Ngorongoro Conservation Area, another area that is supported hugely by African Wildlife Foundation. One of the most beautiful places on Earth. And please hear this, if there is one place you want to go, and you only have a day to do it, if you had a teleportation machine and you said, I want to see African animals in Africa, I put you in the teleportation machine and I send you to Ngorongoro Crater. It is the perfect nature's zoo. What you're looking at, east side of the crater where the clouds come in, rain down on that side of the crater. The water flows down through the volcanic rocks into the bottom of the crater. What you're actually looking at is a thing called Lake Makgadhi. It means salt lake. It is the largest unbroken caldera in the world. So the volcano collapsed in on itself and left this perfect circle. Absolutely unbelievable place. Maasai are the people that live there. They are pastoralists. They are well known for this ritual, which is the males trying to see who is the big man, big jumper on campus. These were the guys when they were kids. If you think you have tough doing a bar mitzvah, these guys used to have to kill lions. They don't have to do that anymore. Here is a Maasai village. Maasai, these guys are still allowed. They're the only people allowed to do any sort of business in the crater. They are allowed to graze their cattle in the crater. No longer in the Serengeti. In 1959, they said Tanzania made a deal with them. You can't go into the Serengeti to graze your cattle, but the crater you can. When you're in the crater, guess what you have to graze your cattle around? Yeah, there's actually two brothers, these two. One of the things you get to see in the crater, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful flamingos. Lioness hunting wildebeest. These wildebeest guys, these are the things that the migration is about. With the white bearded wildebeest, you can see it from there, another subspecies of wildebeest, these are the guys that form the migration from the middle and the southern part of the Serengeti up to the Masai Mara. You see it on National Geographic. These are the stars. Things you get to see in the crater are these massive, massive bull elephants with huge tusks. The biggest tusk you will see, and probably the biggest elephants you'll see. African Wildlife Foundation supports the breeding and the protection of the black rhino in the crater. It's one of the places you are assured to see a black rhino, which is also one of the reasons why I say you want to go somewhere. These animals hopefully will be protected. Beginning of the century, not this century, but the last one, there were over 200. There are 17 left. They're still fighting very hard. All of them microchip 20. African Wildlife Foundation pays for helicopters. It pays for trackers to be out there keeping an eye on them. They will survive. Here's a funny photo of one eating flowers. This is probably the one line that has most touched me in my life. These two gentlemen, the son was killed when he was 25 years old. He went out to the Serengeti. He was killed in '59. Flying planes, crashed planes, doing animal counts. He was counting the animals, making sure if they were all healthy, what the numbers were, comparing that to numbers in the past, seeing how, or making sure that the Serengeti shall not die, which is a very famous, it's a movie actually and a book. Father died in '87, but it says here, it is better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. One of the things, the true reason behind being here, talking to you guys, even writing this book, is to make sure that people understand that if people are not going to Africa, if people are not supporting these animals, not supporting Africa in any way people can, whether it's going there and visiting, whether it's volunteering in Africa, whether it's giving money, Africa needs your help. And more than that, one of the things I say, guys, and it's particularly true for me, I don't know if you get that from me as I'm standing up here being enthusiastic, but the thing that I say to everybody is that if you need magic in your life, if you need wonder in your life, if you need to be inspired in a way that you cannot imagine, then you need Africa as well. I love this. I love going by that and seeing that. I just want to show you. This is the Serengeti. Some of the creatures you will see. This is a hyrax. Believe it or not, that is related to the elephant. You can ask me later how. This is the migration. Leopard. This is the leopard, guys. If you read Larian Days, it's most people's favorite story in the book. A guy came to, when you go to Africa, you have to take lots of shots. You'll have to take some sort of malarial pills. He took a thing called Larium. Another thing you can take away, don't take Larium. My dad took Larium, he was perfectly fine. But Larium is a terrible, terrible drug, protects you. It's also called mefloquine. He went completely psychotic. It was the weirdest 36 hours of my life. Absolutely hilarious. I promise you, if you read that story, you will laugh a lot. Wasn't so funny at the time, but it was very, very funny. It all started in the Serengeti when I realized he had lost his noodle. When we came upon this leopard, which was the best leopard sighting. We're literally no more than about 10 feet underneath this leopard. We drove up. We drove up to it, and everybody else is snapping photos and looking at it. And this guy is looking out across the Serengeti with his binoculars, upside down and backwards. And I'm like, "What's going on there, my man? The leopard's right above you." And he goes like this. I kid you not. I know the rules of the game have changed, and I don't like it one bit. If that sounds crazy, it just got worse from there. Unbelievable. It's one of the reasons, again, one of the things that's happening, it's on hold right now, fortunately. The East African government has said no to it, but believe it or not, they're trying to build a highway across the Serengeti. It would be the equivalent of filling the Grand Canyon with concrete and building a strip mall. Scientists have gotten together. This is a railway they want to build. Scientists have gotten together and said, you cannot do this. You might very well destroy the entire planet because of the amount of carbon that the Serengeti takes care of. The animals cannot travel. They cannot travel because of that highway or the railroad. They will die. The entire system will shut down and be destroyed. This is another area that anywhere except there. They have not been able to keep mountain gorillas alive anywhere else. And you saw the photo of those mountains. That is the only place in the world. These three mountains, basically, they are islands. They are islands in a sea of people who are farming, hunting for. It's really, they are literally on the very, very, very brink of extinction. These animals, which is why they are so heavily supported. One of our closest relatives. Any other questions? Yes, the lovely lady in the back.
So if you're planning a trip to Africa, what is required before you go? Like what type of inoculations, shots? I mean, what's your preparation?
Depends on where you're going in Africa. It's a very good question.
Yeah.
You can always call me and I'll let you know, Jen. But yeah, you want to check with anywhere you travel. You want to check with the CDC. They'll tell you exactly what you need, what type of malarial medication you might need, whatever it is. They'll let you know. And then you can go to a local place to get the shots. Yes?
So how much are these? What's the starting price of the trip?
It depends on what type of trip, just to give you an idea. The overland trips that I was showing you on those maps, 2 weeks from Nairobi to out see the gorillas, you go to the Masai Mara, you go rafting on the Nile, blah, blah, blah. That's $1,795 for 2 weeks. So $1,795 for 2 weeks. Another thing I will tell you, no matter who you are traveling with, Africa is one of the most accessible and affordable places. Unfortunately, the reason why I've come back from Africa to market my own company here is that Americans just don't know. They think Africa is a big, scary place. It's so far away, and it is quite far, but your flight to Australia is going to be basically the same from New York to Cape Town. It is incredibly accessible, and if you do your homework, you can find trips like mine. To be honest, I'm significantly more expensive than a lot, like for Africa Travel Company. I just offer a lot more information. You learn a lot more. You have a lot more activities. But you can do it. Those trips are less than $2,000 for 3 weeks. That's camping. Now that is camping. There are upgrades that'll cost you maybe $20 a night for nice upgrades with a bathroom in your room. So it is incredibly affordable. There are also obviously, and you can do it anyway. You can do overlanding with tenting. You can do it with lodges and some tenting, or you can do luxury safaris. Yes.
When's the best time of year to go?
Oh, wow. It's a very good question, but a very tough one. It so depends. Like the areas I've showed you, that trip that I would do was over 7,000 miles. All right, those 56 days we would cover 7,000 miles. So you're talking about very different climates. In southern Africa, the seasons are reversed. So right now, my dad and I and a family of clients are going, we're going to have to dress up very warmly at night in southern Africa. It's going to be basically down to freezing. During the day, it's going to be beautiful, 80, 85 degrees during the day. If you go during the summer, that same trip, it's going to be like here. It could be up to 100, 105 degrees and very warm at night in southern Africa. East Africa is on the equator. You just have to understand that in East Africa, the rains come from about end of February to beginning of April. So that you kind of don't want to be there then. Any other questions? One more question. What is the fastest land animal?
You mentioned volunteering. What are the important kinds of volunteering? Is it with animals? Is it helping in schools? Is it?
You give me a call. Yeah, you can volunteer. There is so much you can do in Africa. It is literally endless, from helping people with micro businesses to going to reserves and helping orphaned animals. Going to orphanages where you have AIDS orphans. Literally, anything you could imagine, Africa has. One more question? I can't resist. Yes?
Did you ever get down to the Tzitzikama forest outside of Neisner?
No, I've been to Neisner, which was absolutely amazing. Everybody tells me you got it.
Elephants in there too. I don't know if any of them left. So.
No, sadly, no.
They were gone.
Yeah, sadly.
I used to live in Neisner.
Yeah, I hear the accent. Yeah, no, sadly, no. All right, guys, that's what she wrote.
I always feel like the bad guy, but I want to be able to get your book signed tonight. So once again, let's give up one more round of applause for Matthew.
Brian, I was wrong. It's more like Tiny Tim.
Oh, there you go. Someone told me that recently too. Tiny Tim. I don't know Tiny Tim, but it's a consensus. Yo, it's nice to meet you. The author? Just thought I'd try. Pictures with the author. Take a check from you? Yes, with ID. Anyone else? No checks.
I paid for this book. I should have.
Maybe for your life. Grab a wall.
Sure, let's do that. Dear John. J-O-H-N.
I'm gonna write that because I've never read door.
Wow, you're very good.
Small light. Sorry. Wow, I can't read that at all.
No, I think good. It's got some style to it.
That style isn't the word. Hieroglyphics is closer to Sumerian hieroglyphs.
I totally asked your dad about food, where I go to the bathroom, what's my sleeping arrangements, what's my options. I went through the whole 9 yards. He's like, okay. He's like, okay, 5 star. Let's just take it easy.